Last week, we had a look at EquatIO in Google Docs, slides, sheets, and forms. This week, what I want to show you is how you can use EquatIO in the D2L learning environment. So we'll start in content. We're going to go to Insert Stuff, scroll down and find the EquatIO tab. And from here, we can open up the entire EquatIO menu to be used right inside the D2L content. So here I'm using predictive text to put in some chemical formulas. If the chemical formula you're looking for isn't in the predictive text library, the other tool that can be really handy is to use the handwriting tool. So I'm going to pick the handwriting tool, and now I'm just going to write in my element symbols and their subscripts, and I will see them populate over on the right-hand pane. If everything looks good after I put in all my symbols, then I can go ahead and insert this into my content. And I'll get a preview. It looks good. I'm going to add it in. Another powerful tool that we can use from the EquatIO toolbar is the graph editor. So this Desmos graph editor allows me to type in the formula of a graph, and then it'll be inserted right into my content. Okay, so I'm going to use the up arrow to get my superscripts, and I'm going to do the equation of a circle. And I'm looking at that circle in the preview, and it's looking a little bit small for content. So I'm going to back out of there, and I'm just going to zoom in with my mouse, and that looks a little cleaner. The kids can see the grid lines now, much easier to do the math on. I'm going to insert that, and that looks good. So this is how we can use EquatIO toolbar with the content, but we can also use the Chrome toolbar as an overlay on the D2L content. And where this gets powerful is now I can open up my Math Spaces menu. I can bring in images from my desktop, and I can start to annotate them and add in these sort of predefined shapes that come with the Math Spaces menu. So I'm going to say this peach looks a lot like a sphere. And I can put these side by side, and then I can begin to annotate them. So I can include formulas and measurements, and we can start to talk about the math behind the volume of a peach, for instance. Okay, so I can annotate and I can put my thinking on the page for kids to see. And so instead of getting sort of that stagnant kind of text, what kids are seeing is a much more dynamic image. When I'm done, okay, there's some other math tools I can bring in alongside these things, like a protractor. We can bring in counting cubes or rulers. We can bring in angles for measurements, okay? And we can bring in some signs, images if we needed to. So for instance, maybe we're looking like at electrical circuits, we could bring in pictures of resistors, okay? So we have all these available images in the library, or we can bring in our own. And again, we can annotate right over top of this to kind of bring our content alive a little bit. Once we're done, we're going to go up to the top right-hand corner, insert space. You'll get a little preview of what you've created, and then you can insert that right into your D2L content. And that looks pretty good. There are a couple other spots in D2L that we can use EquatIO. So we can use it in our assessments. So we can go, for instance, to the assignments page. And when we're creating an assignment, we can embed alongside of it a graph, for instance, from EquatIO. So again, we go insert stuff, scroll down to the bottom, find your EquatIO tab, and now I can insert a graph right here. So maybe I want students to analyze this graph, answer a few questions, and hand it in. So maybe it'll just be like a text submission kind of Dropbox where students don't have to hand in a file, but they can just write what it is, what they're seeing on that image. Another place where this can become really handy is in quizzes. So let's say we're doing like a nomenclature quiz in chemistry. Okay, I can bring in those EquatIO tools to help me kind of fill in my quiz a little bit with some pre-made formulas to make my workflow a little bit easier. So let's say we're doing a multiple choice quiz, it's nomenclature, I'm going to go insert stuff. And so I'm going to have chemical formulas. I'm going to use EquatIO, and I think they're going to be in the library, so I'm going to use predictive text, and I'm going to do ethane. There's the formula, and then I insert it. And I could do this for the questions, or I could do it for the answers. Okay, so you can see that insert stuff menu is also available for all the answers, so you could insert your EquatIO formulas from there. Once you have your question set up, You just indicate your right answer and then save. Now, another powerful spot where we could use EquatIO is in the discussion boards. So if we go to the discussion boards tab under communication, this is where students can share their thinking with each other. So I can create a new discussion board, and maybe some things that might work for my math class might be an I spy, or what do you see wrong with my math? So I might do something incorrectly on purpose and then have students discuss what it is they saw that I did incorrectly. Or I might insert a graph and ask kids to see what it is, or to note what it is they're noticing about the graph. In this way, we're kind of crowdsourcing some knowledge from our students, and I'm going to just put in a simple graph here. There we go. And I might ask students, okay, what is it you see in this graph? And ask students to put some observations. That's one way I could do my discussion forum. Another way, like I said, is I could do some math on incorrectly on purpose. So I could use math spaces to do this, and I could create a question, let's say with nets for a cylinder, okay? And I could start to annotate on this some incorrect steps, some things that maybe I'm doing wrong. Okay. And then when I'm happy with what I have there, I can insert that into the discussion board and ask students to pick out what were the steps that were incorrect here in this math. So again, when I'm ready, I go up to the top right-hand corner, insert math, and there it is there in my discussion forum post. So those are a couple of the ways that we can use EquatIO inside of D2L. If you have questions, please reach out.
We hope that you'll connect with us. Follow us on Twitter, visit our webpage, or send us an email.